Coming up on the Together for Good podcast, this is Pastor Gary Sandberg, and this is not a Christmas story.
Welcome to the Together for Good podcast, a podcast created by Bethany Lutheran Church in Cherry Hills Village, Colorado, and hosted by me, Pastor Nate Preisinger. On Together for Good, our goal is to provide practical, engaging content that supports you without expectations. Whether you're feeling disconnected from traditional religion or simply exploring what faith means in your life, we're here to walk alongside you. No matter where you are on your journey of faith, we're glad you're here. Welcome to Together for Good.
When I was in high school, I got my first real job after having a paper route for many years. Got my first real job at McDonald's, and I worked there for several years. And back in that day, this would have been 1978 and into 1979, you used to work at McDonald's, and McDonald's, believe it or not, used to actually close at night. So at midnight or 1 a.m. on the weekends, the store would close. And at that point, all the workers would leave, and on the weekend nights, somebody would come in and clean the store all night. They would clean up the grills, they would clean up the lobby area, they would mop the whole floor, take care of virtually everything in the restaurant to have it ready for the morning shift to come in. But when I was in high school, the McDonald's I worked at decided that, you know what, we have people working here, and a crew of usually about 4 would work till 1, or maybe at that point on Saturday nights, 2 in the morning. And then they would close the store up, and the management started to realize, well, those 4 people could probably just stay for a little while longer and clean up the whole store. And I was one of the lucky ones, and truly I mean that. I was lucky as I was chosen as one of the workers who would be able to be on a team of people who would close down the store, shut it down, and then take some time, and that crew of 4 people, we cleaned up the entire store and got it ready for the morning shift. And I did this virtually every Saturday night for possibly a year and a half. Maybe not every, but pretty much every Saturday night I was on the shift to do that. There was a crew of about 5 of us, and we would all rotate, so 4 of us would be there. Well, we realized after a couple of weeks of doing that and talking that none of us could go home and go to bed. Usually it's because we had been, snacking on whatever French fries were left at the end of the night and drinking Coke to get us through the early hours of the evening as we were cleaning up the store. And so one of the things we realized is if we're not all tired, and it is a Saturday night, there's got to be something still that we can do. And so we started just going out to a friend's house, or there also happened to be a 24-hour bowling alley that was open in our town. And I gotta tell you, as a high school student, showing up at maybe somewhere around 3 in the morning at a 24-hour bowling center in your McDonald's uniform that you've been wearing for the last 8 hours and cleaning up a store in, well, you look pretty chic with all of that. Well, that was my Saturday nights throughout my high school years. One of the things you also should know is that I had very few rules set down from my parents when I was in high school. The 2 that I had were really quite severe if they were ever broken. The one was there was to be no drugs and no drinking. And the other was that you do not miss church on Sunday morning. If those 2 rules were adhered to, then really you had an awful lot of freedom. And so I did. I knew that those 2 rules were the line in the sand for my parents, and so I simply never crossed them. As a part of that then, I was able to work until the wee hours of the morning and then still go out with my friends. And there were so many Saturday nights all through high school that I would get home somewhere around 6 in the morning, quietly try to sneak into the house, go up to upstairs, up to my room, change, take a shower, and get dressed for church. Because I would never ever be chance being caught drinking or doing any drugs on a Saturday night, and so I never did, and I never missed church on a Sunday morning. Now some people might say, that sounds like a lot of freedom. And it was, but what it really taught me more than anything else was the gift of discipline, which is interesting when you consider that discipline and the word disciple have the exact same root in it. And I realized through all of that time that that's actually a God moment for me, to realize that the self-discipline that I was able to have by creating an atmosphere around how I approached my Saturday nights and my Sunday mornings, well, that set a path of discipline for me that I would carry throughout a career as a disciple. It's a God thing when your parents give you enough structure that you can live by and enough freedom to allow you something to figure out. I would have to say that life of discipline allowed me to be a churchgoer throughout my entire college career. And of course, once I got into seminary, that was kind of a given. But during that time, that sense of discipline that I would have simply said early on was a discipline of just going to church, well, what that turned to was a discipline of understanding what it meant to truly live a life of faith. Sometimes what we realize is the rules that we're given are not meant at all to punish us. In fact, the rules that I were given really freed me up. They freed me up to be a person of discipline, which then allowed me to really be a disciple. What a God thing for me. Who would have thought that closing and cleaning up a store at McDonald's on Saturday night could lead me into a life of discipline and faith? Thanks for joining me on this Together for Good podcast for Not a Christmas Story. I'm Pastor Gary Sandberg, and until next time.